You ever come across a story so raw, so real, that it punches right through your soul and forces you to rethink everything you thought you knew about strength, love, and what it means to be human? I didn't go looking for this story. It found me, and when it did, it didn't ask for my attention. It demanded it, not with noise, not with drama, but with stillness. Stillness in the middle of chaos. A kind of peace that can only come from deep, unshakable faith. I met a Muslim family in Gaza whose home was reduced to rubble, but what shocked me wasn't the destruction. It was the grace in their eyes. The way the mother held her child, her hands trembling, but her voice steady as the sky. She said, "We've lost many things, but never our faith, never our hope. That's not weakness, that's unfiltered power." And in that moment, I'll be honest, I wasn't Oprah Winfrey, the media icon. I was just a woman, standing in front of something divine, something eternal, and it changed me. This isn't a video, this isn't a speech. This is a mirror, because maybe what they found in rubble is what we've been trying to find in comfort. Grace isn't something that just appears when life is smooth. It's not something that waits for the perfect moment, the ideal setting, or the calm after the storm. In fact, it's often born in the most chaotic, most uncertain places. You see, grace isn't the absence of difficulty. It's the ability to remain unshaken despite it. And the family I met in Gaza taught me that. In the middle of their pain, their suffering, and their loss, they carried themselves with a kind of quiet dignity that took my breath away. This woman, a mother whose house had been reduced to nothing but dust, stood tall. She wasn't pretending to be okay, but there was a peacefulness in her that came from a deeper place. It was as if she understood that chaos, no matter how loud or destructive, couldn't touch the core of who she was. That's grace, being steady when the world around you is falling apart. It's not about having everything in control. It's about knowing that even in the mess, you can still choose to stand tall, to hold your head high, to choose love over fear. And when you watch someone move through the worst of life with that kind of strength, it makes you rethink your own idea of what it means to be strong. We think we need to have everything figured out, to wait until things are perfect. But in reality, grace comes from showing up, even when you don't have all the answers. It comes from being present in your own struggle and knowing that the storm doesn't define you. It's about choosing peace over panic, love over hate, faith over doubt, no matter the storm you're facing. That's what this family taught me. That's grace. Faith isn't loud. It doesn't need to shout, demand attention, or put on a show. It doesn't need to be seen by everyone around you to be real. In fact, the strongest faith I've ever encountered didn't make a sound at all. It was quiet, gentle, and still, like a river flowing beneath the surface, unnoticed but powerful in its own right. This family in Gaza, despite all they'd lost, held onto their faith like a secret treasure, not needing anyone to see or hear it. It was there, inside them, steady and unshakable, even when the world around them was shaking. When we think of faith, we often picture grand displays, big words, and loud prayers. We think it has to be big to matter. But what I learned that day is that faith isn't defined by the noise. It's defined by the quiet moments, those silent decisions you make when no one is watching. It's the way you choose to keep going when the road gets rough, how you continue to believe in something bigger than yourself when everything seems to be falling apart. This family didn't need to explain their faith to anyone. They didn't need to prove it. It was simply there in the way they lived, in the way they loved, in the way they carried on despite everything. They didn't make noise about it. They lived it. That's real faith. It doesn't need an audience. It just needs you to believe, even in the smallest moments. That's when it grows. That's when it does its work, quietly, steadily, with unwavering strength. And sometimes the most powerful faith is the one that's felt, not seen. Pain is not the opposite of purpose. We often think that when we're in pain, when we're hurting, we've somehow lost our way. We believe that struggle means we've strayed off course, that it's a sign of failure. But what I've come to realize is that pain is often the doorway to discovering your true purpose, to finding out what really matters in life. This family in Gaza, they've been through unimaginable hardship, but what's so incredible is that despite the pain, they have a sense of purpose that nothing can take away. In their suffering, I saw a strength that had been forged in the fire of struggle. They didn't let their pain define them. Instead, they used it. It became their fuel, their fire to keep going, to push forward. Pain has a way of opening us up to what really matters. It strips away the distractions, the things that don't serve us, and leaves us with the pure essence of who we are, what we stand for, and what we truly believe. This family didn't give up when life got hard. They didn't turn away from their faith or their values. In fact, their pain seemed to deepen their sense of purpose. It gave them clarity. When you go through pain, it's easy to feel lost, to wonder if you'll ever find your way back. But the truth is, pain often pushes you towards something greater. It makes you stronger. It makes you more compassionate, more determined, more in tune with your heart. It reveals the purpose you might not have seen before, the purpose that's been there all along, waiting for you to discover it. Pain doesn't break you. It shapes you into the person you're meant to be, and sometimes it's only through the struggle that we finally find our true path. They lost their walls, but not their worth. When everything around you crumbles, when your home, your possessions, everything you've built is taken from you, it's easy to feel like you've lost a part of yourself, like somehow the things you've built with your hands and heart defined who you are. But this family in Gaza showed me something completely different. When their house was destroyed, when their world was torn apart, they didn't lose their value. They didn't lose their sense of self. So often we attach our worth to the things we own, the status we've achieved, or the people around us. We think, if I have this, then I matter. But the truth is, those things are temporary. They can be taken in an instant. What truly matters, what defines you, is what can't be stripped away. It's who you are at your core, the love you give, the strength you carry, and the integrity you stand for. This family knew that. They had lost their walls, their roof, but they hadn't lost their essence. Their worth wasn't tied to material things. It was in the love they shared, the way they cared for one another, and the hope they carried inside. When you face loss, when everything you've built seems to slip away, it's easy to think you've lost your value. But real worth doesn't come from the outside. It comes from the inside. It's in your resilience, your ability to rise after falling, to keep your heart open when the world feels closed off. You are not the things you own or the places you've been. You are the person you choose to be regardless of your circumstances, and that is something no one can ever take from you. Love doesn't need safety to survive. We often think love only thrives in the perfect conditions, when everything is peaceful, secure, and calm. We believe that love is only strong when there's no threat, no danger. But this family in Gaza showed me a different side of love, one I didn't expect. They loved each other deeply, fiercely, even in the midst of chaos and uncertainty. In a place where danger was always just around the corner, where survival was a daily battle, their love didn't just survive, it flourished. What I realized that day is that real love doesn't need perfect circumstances to thrive. It doesn't need comfort or predictability. It's not about having everything figured out or having the ideal life. Love is powerful because it exists in the hardest moments. It's the mother holding her child close, not knowing what tomorrow will bring, but still choosing to love with all her heart. It's the father, despite everything, still finding ways to show up for his family, still believing in hope in a future. When we live in fear, we tend to protect ourselves. We put up walls, we guard our hearts, thinking that love is too fragile to exist in uncertainty. But love isn't fragile. It's one of the strongest forces in the world. It doesn't need perfect conditions to grow. It just needs a willing heart, even when that heart is broken, weary, or afraid. This family's love was their anchor, their strength, and it didn't need safety. It didn't need to be sheltered. It thrived in the most difficult, dangerous moments, and that's the kind of love that changes everything. That's the kind of love we all need to learn how to give and receive. This family reminded me of something timeless. Strength wrapped in surrender is not defeat. It's the ultimate form of power. We often think that to be strong, we have to fight, resist, and push against every obstacle. We think strength is about standing tall, arms crossed, unyielding to anything that comes our way. But this family in Gaza taught me that real strength isn't about fighting everything. It's about knowing when to surrender. And no, that doesn't mean giving up. It means surrendering to what you cannot change and finding peace in the middle of it. They didn't resist the chaos around them. They didn't waste energy trying to fight things they had no control over. Instead, they accepted what was happening, not as defeat, but as part of their journey. They found power in their ability to stay grounded, in their ability to love despite the odds, to remain hopeful even when everything seemed hopeless. That's where their strength came from. It wasn't in resisting reality. It was in embracing it, trusting that no matter what happened, they would find a way to move forward. This family didn't need to fight the storm. They learned to dance in the rain, and that's a lesson we can all take to heart. Strength isn't about stubbornness or refusal to bend. It's about adaptability. It's about accepting that some things are beyond our control, and instead of letting them break us, we let them shape us. We surrender to the things we can't change, and in doing so, we find our true power. Strength wrapped in surrender isn't weakness. It's the wisdom to know that sometimes the greatest power lies in letting go and trusting the process. So, when life throws its hardest challenges your way, remember the lessons this family taught me. When everything around you falls apart, your grace, your faith, your purpose, and your love are the things that will hold you together. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't need perfect conditions to show love. And you don't have to resist everything to find strength. Sometimes the true power lies in surrendering to the journey, trusting that no matter what comes, you have everything inside you to rise, rebuild, and move forward. You are more than your circumstances, and your worth is not defined by what you have or don't have. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed by life, take a moment, ground yourself. Remember that within you is the same quiet strength, the same unshakable faith, and the same unbreakable love. Just like that family, you have the power to find peace in the chaos, purpose in the pain, and strength in surrender. You are not alone in this journey. You have everything you need to keep moving forward.